This is a capsule, and we're going to talk about Trump taking control of Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, which is the federal district in the United States. It's where the federal government is located, including Congress, the White House, and the National Mall, which is their government building's esplanade. It's much larger than ours. It's really cool there. On my channel, Peter Turguniev, I did a tour. I rode a bike through the whole area to see it, and it's really nice, the National Mall. However, Washington is something of an anomaly in the American state, because the United States, unlike Brazil, was originally a group of defined states that decided to unite and form the United States. So the main power is in the state, not in the federal government, or at least it wasn't at the beginning of the United States. So Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, was something of an anomaly. Here in Brazil, when we created the federal district, Brasília, that region has a governor and everything is provided for in the Constitution. In the United States, it's different. The District of Columbia area was governed until a short time ago, until 1973, by Congress, specifically the President of Congress. That is, imagine Hugo Moura also directing Brasília, being in charge of it. But what happens in the end? In 1973, a so-called Home Rule Act was approved, which allowed Washington to elect a mayor to oversee the police and the region, to manage the region. However, that region is extremely democratic. It's very liberal. So they elected a very liberal mayor, and Trump is not satisfied with her, so he decided to take control. And the worst part is that the Home Rule Act of 1973 gives him that power. Let's understand this case. This news was suggested by the husband of the quintuplets, a great law but with a difficult name to remember. And thanks to several other people who suggested news on our site, these are Libertarian, and thanks to you who are watching our video. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe to our channel. I've seen many people talking, I've even heard people saying that Trump staged a coup. No, Trump didn't stage a coup by calling in the armed forces to take control of the Capitol. Calm down, folks. That's not it. Trump used the Home Act of 73, which allowed the people living in Washington, D.C. to vote for a mayor. This law provided that, in cases of problems with the city, the president could declare a state of emergency, and the executive branch would take control of the police in the region. That's what happened. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, but it's not accurate to say he staged a coup, or that he intervened or took control of Washington. I'm not sure what else to say. To remind everyone, Washington was originally the capital of the United States. After they gained independence from England, the first capital, if I'm not mistaken, was New York. Although I'm not entirely sure, it was then in Virginia, then New York, something like that. It was already George Washington's idea, the one who founded the United States, to create its own capital. So they agreed on this region, a 100 square mile area between Maryland and Virginia, where the District of Columbia is located. However, notice it was a square. But what happened? After some time, the people from Virginia separated because they no longer wanted to be part of it. They didn't want to be part of Washington anymore because they realized the central part of Washington was in Maryland, and they became a little jealous of Maryland. They said, no, we don't. So it ended up being a shape that extends to the river here, the Potomac, which is the river that passes by. Today, if you look at the map of Washington, you'll see it's half a square. It's a square here. The part of Virginia here is not Washington, D.C. It's governed by the state of Virginia, even though the Pentagon is located here. Arlington Cemetery, the famous cemetery with American war heroes, is located here in Virginia, So it's very connected. It ends up being the same thing, but the organization here is by Virginia. There's nothing thin. The airport itself, Ronald Reagan Airport, where you arrive in Washington, is located in Virginia, but the Washington we know is precisely this region known as the National Mall. The National Mall is a large park here. It inspired our Esplanada dos Ministerios and features the Congress at one end, the White House here, and the Lincoln Memorial on this side. There are also several museums here, making it very beautiful and quite extensive. This area is quite large and includes the Washington Monument, an obelisk in the center, with the White House located over here. There are numerous attractions in this area. Interestingly, the Supreme Court is located next to the Capitol, which houses the legislative branch in this area. Thus, the central part of Washington is situated in the region that was originally from Maryland and became the District of Columbia. It's very cool, nice, and beautiful, but who governs this area? In the beginning, when this area was very small, when the United States first started, there wasn't much concern. It was governed by Congress itself. Congress itself had the function of governing this area of Washington and taking control. It's like giving the Speaker of the Chamber the right to govern Brasilia in Brazil. Now, over time, the city grew. Nowadays, it's a megalopolis, several interconnected cities, a sprawling metropolis. So in 1973, they passed a law, the Home Rule Act, which allowed the people to elect a mayor. So now Washington has a mayor. There wasn't one until very recently. For city management, similar to the governor of the federal district in Brasilia, the mayor is responsible for security, cleaning the streets, and for infrastructure projects and such. Currently, the mayor of Washington is Muriel Bowser, who is extremely left-wing and a Democrat. But what's going on? Trump realized that during his first term, the Washington district greatly harmed him, for example, on January 6th in the United States. He had offered security to prevent people from storming the Capitol, and yet the then mayor of Washington refused to accept any security measures, and it ended up happening, and they blamed him for the attack. Something similar to what happened on January 8th, which is strange because I've already told you that January 8th was an outrage. I'm not saying that. I'm not excusing the protesters who attacked or damaged property. They're guilty of their actions. But the truth is that if police had been present at that protest, nothing would have happened. There have been numerous protests in Brasilia, and nothing ever happened because police were present to secure the area. So, what is Trump afraid of? He's afraid that Democrats will do something similar to him, right? So you see here how the National Socialist media in Brazil, like Globo, reacted, not because Trump activated National Guard troops and took the security of Washington, gave a move that Trump takes control of the police and sends troops to clean up Washington, and so on. They're presenting it as if Trump had. No. Now Trump has staged a coup, he's taken over Washington and all that. And he even mentioned Brasilia, among other violent capitals, when announcing that he would federalize the police in Washington. Yes, many people are criticizing this, saying it shouldn't be like this, because the Home Rule Act of '73, as I mentioned, was just the opposite. Previously, Congress was in charge of Washington. As of '73, a mayor was elected for the city. So, some people didn't like it. But the truth is that what he's doing isn't radical at all. So, he declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia by the authority I have as President of the United States and under the laws of the United States of America, including Section 740 of the District of Columbia Self-Government Act, which is precisely the Home Rule Act he is referring to. He says that crime is out of control in the District of Columbia, so action is needed. The services of the District of Columbia Police Department are not adequate, including police control, monitoring, and recommendations. In short, he issued this order taking control of the Washington, D.C. police. The mayor did not like it, obviously, and protested strongly, then explains here what this Home Rule Act is. The Home Rule Act is precisely the law that gave independence to Washington, D.C. Until 1973, not so long ago, Washington, D.C. was governed by Congress and did not have a mayor. It's as if Brasilia were governed by the Speaker of the House. There was no mayor or governor of Brasilia. Anyway, the very law that provided for this also allowed for possible interventions, both by Congress and by the executive. And that's exactly what Trump claimed in this matter, saying that crime is very high, that by 2025 crime had increased significantly. He compared it with several world capitals, including Brasilia, saying that crimes in Washington were much higher than in other world capitals, and that therefore he believed radical action was necessary to take control of the police there. Whether this is good or bad, I'm not sure, but the fact is that he has this right according to the law there. Then he explains here how Washington's history of independence unfolded with Mayor Muriel Bowser, who governs the region. Anyway, what happened was that he took control of the Washington, D.C. police force. For him to do this, as he states here, to clean up Washington in the sense of ending crime in the city. He portrays Washington as the most violent city, the most violent capital globally. Personally, I'm unsure whether to believe this or not. I visited Washington and found the city very clean and safe, with police presence everywhere. So, I'm not sure, but he's saying there was a lot of insecurity. What I think is happening here is that he fears the Democrats, through the mayor, will take action against him as they did during his first term. Right after he took office in 2016, a fire was set at a cathedral in Washington by leftists and others with the support of the then mayor. In other words, Trump is doing this much more to clash with the Democrats who control Washington than for any other reason. Will it work? I'm not sure. Washington is really an extremely left-wing city with many Democrats. They say the voting there is around 98% for the Democrats and 2% for Republicans. So Trump's concern is this. He's in a state, in a place dominated by the enemy, right? So he needs to be very careful with this kind of thing. Maybe that's the origin of this intervention. That's the situation. I don't like these things. Military intervention, controlling the police and such. It always seems somewhat dictatorial in the end. But he's not overstepping in anything. Let's see how this works out in practice. Specifically how this control of the police in the District of Columbia will be implemented, because it was already like this before. As I mentioned, it only changed in '73 from congressional and presidential control to local control by the mayor of Washington. Let's see how this turns out. Thank you for watching the video until the end. Besides liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel, consider becoming a sponsor with amounts starting from $0.39 USD. Click the Become a Member button below to learn about the conditions and benefits of sponsoring the channel. For more information about our project, visit our websites listed on the screen.